Hi, and welcome to the Flex with Aaliyah. Today, I'm talking all about race ready obstacles. And that is a company that makes grips and does custom builds. So if you're an OCR racer into American Ninja Warrior, then this podcast is excellent to listen to because I'm going to delve a little bit into their story and kind of how they developed along and where they are right now. And it's a pretty cool story. And I'm going to kick things off with a quote that goes hand in hand with race ready obstacles catchphrase, which is be ready on race day. And the quote that I'm using today is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And I think that's a great quote for race ready. You guys should take it and use it now because their whole premise is if you prepare yourself for what's to come, you're going to be ready. Be ready on race day. Don't leave it up to chance. Practice, get better, and go to the race and crush it. That's kind of their mentality. And that quote is the same thing, that if you stay on top of your shit, you're going to be ready, or as ready as you can be for the unknown. So who makes up race ready obstacles? Well, there's Dana and Aaron. It is a husband and wife run business. They are great people. They're super, super nice, and they're out in the Midwest. I always want to say Chicago, but it could be Ohio, but I think it's Illinois. And they make obstacle grips. That's kind of how they started. But before they actually started crafting things, they got into some Spartan races back in 2016. That's when they delved a little bit into OCR and they struggled on the obstacles. And they didn't really like that feeling. And how could they get better at them if they weren't practicing them? So Aaron took it upon himself and started to simulate obstacles that were present in those races that they would do. That way they could practice and get better. And as he honed his skill, they then created race-ready obstacles where they were now selling grips for OCR racers and American Ninja Warrior competitors, which is so cool because they started out doing it just for themselves for fun, and then it developed and progressed into a successful business. And their business is a veteran-owned, handmade company. Aaron was in the Coast Guard, and they do everything themselves. And I'm pretty sure this was not Dana's forte when they started, but Erin's really into it, and she has worked on the obstacles with him and has gotten better and better as the years went on in assisting making these grips. And after they made these individual grips that you could purchase to practice on, there was a period of time where they would then bring one of their obstacles to an event. And that is actually where I first met Aaron. I'm pretty sure it was 2022. And it was my very first frontline, which was in Byron, Illinois. It was in November, so it was a little chilly. And there was this new obstacle that they were talking about, Kraken, and all the rumblings. And I had never done this race. And it's a race where you compete in a weighted vest, 20-pound weighted vest. I was like, ooh, sign me up. So when I got there, everyone was talking about the hubbub of Kraken. And I sometimes like to go preview the obstacles and walk down because it was near the start of the race. I saw an Aaron was standing over by the obstacle. I will say, first impression, he did not look extremely personable. I think he looked a little grouchy that day. I don't know if it was because it was November and cold or what. And I remember he had said something to me because I was looking at him. He was like, oh, how are you going to try to do it? And I was like, oh, probably like this. And I want to make sure I'm leading with this arm. And he had some type of retort. And then he was not the friendliest person that day. However, Aaron is super friendly. I love him so much. But that first impression was just so funny. And I ended up getting through the obstacle. And I was like, suck it, Aaron. Obviously later. But in my head, maybe right at that moment, because he was watching to see how people were doing on this obstacle. So they progressed from making hand grips and then taking now a huge scale, like a larger obstacle, and bringing it to an event. And then they started directing races. So the next year that I went to Frontline, I don't remember meeting Dana yet, but the course was a little bit more well-marked. The obstacles had changed a bit, and they had taken over organizing that race. And I'm pretty sure that was their first race that they directed. It was a success, and Frontline has continued to progress in a positive way because of their enhanced relationship now and how good they are at being race directors. And then on top of that, it started to expand. There's a couple other races that they now direct. Sometimes they just bring the obstacles. Sometimes they set up the course, lay out the tape markings for the course, and they even do custom builds for private companies, some military courses, even people's homes. And now the big news this year, which actually came out last fall, is that they're doing their own race. And I will say that's probably the talk of the OCR community this year. It's the hubbub. Everybody is excited to see what this race is going to have. It is a 10K, so it's going to be a little over 6 miles. I believe it's 30 to 50 obstacles. And some of those are obviously rigs, there's carries, probably maybe a balancing, some strength components. And they're really known for making obstacles for competitors. Sure, they have open wave. That means non-competitors, and they just want to try things out for fun. They still have that, but it's not tailored towards the everyday person. This is tailored for people who want to rise to the occasion, want to accept the challenge, want to be smacked in the face as Aaron Klotz watching them struggle on those obstacles. That is what we are going for. They tend to create fun rigs, challenging obstacles, and they're different. They're not what we see at every other Spartan race. And that, I know for me, is extremely enticing. I love going to the races that they do because it allows us to, as athletes, to think on our feet and handle an obstacle that we haven't exactly seen before. And speaking from an obstacle specialist standpoint, I love that because there are athletes out there who they want to practice exactly what they're going to do on the race. So they practice twister, which is in Spartan, over and over and over again. They practice this series of obstacles where maybe it's a ring and then a short rope and a T-bar and then a ring. And they practice that, but when they're thrown to a race and it's not that exact configuration, they're stumped. They're confused. They're struggling with it. And that's the whole premise of Race Ready. Be ready. Sure, absolutely practice those elements that you typically see, but don't forget, you're going to be thrown something that you're not used to. And that is what everybody is excited for Midwest OCR. That's what they're calling the race, Midwest OCR. And they have an amazing build crew who are helping. I know a couple of them, probably more than a couple. And the one is Sid. He has done his own race in the past, Battle OCR, Battle of the Lions, and supposedly maybe in the coming year will have his own race, which is very exciting. He loves to make crazy shit. That's why I like going to his races. I never could guess what he's going to have, and that's half the fun. So the build crew that they have is spectacular. And this week, leading up to the race, because it is this Saturday, they're starting build week. Today, Monday, they hauled all the stuff up to the venue, which is about 3 hours from where Dana and Aaron live. And now the fun starts to happen for the build crew. They get to configure, make, design, put all that crazy shit in. That's what's happening this week. And if you're not on social media and you're participating in this race, I recommend you check it out because they're going to be showing previews of obstacles, demonstrations for people on the build crew completing the obstacle. They even have some fun things. They're hiding these blue skulls, bearded skulls, around the course that if you find, it guarantees you a free entry into the race next year, which is very promising because I can't wait till next year. But we're so focused on this year. Not only do they have a competitive division, which is a 10K, they also have a challenge called the Bearded Challenge. And it's 6 hours, as many laps as you can go in that time frame. So those are more for the endurance athletes, but also the endurance obstacle athletes, because you need to be able to complete all the obstacles 100%, both in the competitive 10K and in the Bearded Challenge. That's not to say you can't do the open wave and skip things, miss things, but in the competitive wave and the Bearded Challenge, it's mandatory obstacle completion. There's no penalty. You can't skip. If you do, that technically counts as a DNF. And some of their new obstacles that they've been teasing everybody with is this Gibbon pegboard obstacle. I've been thinking about it. I've been trying to guess what they're going to do. Is it going to be Gibbons first, and then you have to take the pegs, put them into the pegboard? Is the pegboard going to be first? Or are they going to be torturing us a little bit more where it's Gibbons, pegboard, Gibbons? Who knows? Then they have this, they're calling it Pac-Man. It is almost like a C. Think of it as a ring for either anchors away or either a ring row. It's a big circle. But now it's probably missing a fourth of it and looks like a C or a Pac-Man. And you're definitely going to be doing something on it. I'm curious if it's going to be anchors away. You're going to have to find the balance point holding that hook, which will be pretty spicy for sure. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that they tease us with. I know there's going to be a Skull Valley, which is pretty prominent at some of the OCR worlds that have been in the past. And it's these skulls and grips that are suspended up. And it's like a rock wall, but there's nothing for your feet to go on. It's only your hands, like a ledge board. That one's going to be pretty fun because I saw skulls and little gnarly rock grips. Sometimes they make you switch sides. So let's say you're leading with your right hand. Sometimes it shifts to the back side of that board and now you have to lead with your left hand. So it changes in the middle of the obstacle, which is unique. And I've seen at one of Sid's races, Battle of the Lions, where they've done that. I know they're probably going to do a Atlas Stone carry, but it's filled with sand. And you're going to have to carry it over a wall and over another wall and then back, something like that. They tend to do another strength obstacle where you're carrying a sandbag, then you're doing a crawl, pick your sandbag up, go over a balance beam, maybe another one, a couple walls, and then at Frontline they did high-low, I think that's what it was called, high-low, and you had to step over these poles that were going left to right. So you just had a high step over pretty much. And you just had to watch your privates because there was pretty high sometimes and you're carrying your sandbag. Likely there's going to be a rope climb. And so many people are asking about the course map, and that's going to come out probably Thursday night, maybe Friday. And the whole point of that coming out later is weather sometimes can throw things off and they need to shift how the course looks, where certain obstacles go. And they want to make sure they present the most accurate depiction of the race. So props them for holding true to that and waiting. Because sometimes you have races that rush that, they put it out early, something happens and they need to change it, and then you show up and you're like, hey, this wasn't on the map, and it might be a little confusing. So this is going to be a very anticipated event. I know I'm looking forward to it. I was pretty bummed when I dislocated my elbow. I was like, oh my God, I won't be able to do Midwest OCR. It's like the epitome of my season right now, that and Frontline. But I don't think I've officially told anybody, but I am going. So if you don't listen to this podcast, you won't know, but I am going. I've been working really hard on my elbow. And when I first saw the ortho, I had presented this idea as like, hey, how likely can I do this race? I really want to go. I understand I might not be as competitive. He said to me, he's like, I think it's possible. If we spend 2 weeks straightening your arm and 2 weeks strengthening it, there's a chance. And now that it's a week out, there is a high chance, man, because I have been testing it on certain things smartly. It's a balance of being stupid and smart. You can't be too stupid. That's where you overstep the line. I just toe the line. You play with that line a little bit. That's what's helping me get to where I want to be. I'm very diligent in the stretching and stuff that I have to do. And now that it's straight, testing certain things. Obviously, I'm not doing anything over the top like bar muscle ups or kipping because that's so much stretch and pull my arm. And I need to make sure my shoulder's strong. That's so much body weight pulling down on it, especially when you're one-arming things. So that's hot off the press is that I am going this weekend. Yep, I'm still going to do the competitive division. And I'm going to put it on the line because that's what I do. It's not fun to miss this. Oh my God, I'd have such FOMO. I'd be gutted. So I'm not letting that happen. I put my head down and did the work, and now I'm going to show up. Yes, I can do pegboard. I can do Kraken, and I can do Gibbons. Those I've tested recently. Now put them into a race where I'm running and my heart rate's high. Might be more challenging, which I'm very aware of. So, but I was not going to miss this sucker. No way, no how. And if for some reason I couldn't compete, I was going to volunteer. Also, if you are in the area and you're not competing, you can absolutely volunteer because I know they're looking for people to help. To summarize, talk about Race Ready Obstacle, kind of their story on how they developed. Aaron and Dana, husband and wife, veteran-owned company, started making grips just to get better at the races they were doing. And it evolved into a very successful business where they're selling grips, doing custom builds, and now putting together their own amazing race, which goes hand in hand with that quote of if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And they stay ready with their shit all the time. Dana does a phenomenal job on social media, engaging people, keeping athletes up to date on what's happening as they've developed this race. And so not only do they keep you ready, they are on point. So if you haven't checked them out yet, regardless of the sport that you do, grip strength is extremely important. And definitely off the press, they are one of our sponsors for Festivus that I am hosting October 5th, which is fantastic. I'm super excited about having them as a sponsor, where the intermediate first place divisions are going to get a coupon code to their grips. So thank you so much for tuning in. Stay ready, be ready, and get your shit done. I'll catch you next week. Have a wonderful day.